Does the future of our planet depend upon an aquatic alien race? Does Colonel Hastings hold the key they seek within his visions? What shocking revelations are revealed when the five pieces of artifact are finally reunited? The answers to these questions and more are coming up now.
Oh, Shakri'aya, take me far away through the void where endless wonders sway. Every question births a deeper spark in your glow. I'm lost within the dark.
The Shakri'aya Chronicles. Welcome back, and don't forget to give us a digital high five and subscribe. Echoes across the void. Colonel Hastings stood at the edge of an impossible void, a darkness that shifted and pulsed with malevolent awareness. From within its depths, voices called to him. Not the alien whispers of the usurpers that had haunted his previous dreams, but something both more terrible and more precious. His daughter's voice, unmistakable in its clarity.
Daddy!
She called, her small form materializing at the void's edge.
They're keeping us here. Not just me and Mom. Others too.
Emma?
Hastings reached for her, but the distance between them remained constant no matter how far he stretched.
Who's keeping you?
Not who you think.
Emma replied, her eyes reflecting knowledge no 8-year-old should possess.
The ones you're helping. They're not.
A sudden intrusion, something vast and ancient pushing through, silenced her. The void rippled as if agitated, and Emma's form began to dissolve.
Find the woman in between.
Emma called as she faded.
She knows the truth about the artifacts, about what they really do.
Hastings jolted awake, gasping, the mind shield on his wrist pulsing frantically. 3 nights now, the same dream with increasing clarity. His daughter, lost 5 years ago in what he'd believed was a tragic accident, speaking to him from across dimensional boundaries, delivering warnings that contradicted everything they understood about their mission. He checked his watch. 0300 hours. Sleep would not return tonight. In the soft glow of his desk lamp, he studied the 4 artifact pieces they had secured. Even within their specialized containment units, they seemed more active than before, pulsing in synchronized patterns as if communicating with each other, or preparing for something. His secure comm unit chimed, a priority alert from the science division. Dr. Chen, their lead analyst for Shakri'aya technology, rarely made middle-of-night calls without good reason.
Colonel,
Chen's face appeared on the screen, exhaustion evident in his features.
you need to see this. The artifacts are emitting a new frequency, something we haven't detected before. And there's something else, a signal breaking through on the same bandwidth.
I'm on my way.
Hastings replied, already reaching for his uniform. The laboratory hummed with activity despite the early hour. Technicians moved with urgent purpose around the containment chamber, where the 4 artifact pieces were stored. Holographic displays showed oscillating energy patterns that pulsed in complex configurations. Dr. Chen guided Hastings to the central monitoring station.
It started approximately 90 minutes ago. The artifacts initiated some kind of automated protocol. They're reaching out, Colonel, searching for something.
The 5th piece.
Hastings suggested, recalling the compass that now pointed to its location in a collapsed pocket dimension.
That was our first thought.
Chen agreed, manipulating the displays to highlight a particular energy signature.
But then this appeared. It's not coming from the artifacts. It's responding to them, from somewhere in between.
The signal resolved into visual data, fragmented and distorted, but recognizable enough to send a chill down Hastings' spine. Dr. Eliza Voss's face, or something like it, flickered in and out of resolution. Her features were altered, stretched and reconfigured as if viewed through rippling water, but her eyes held the same intelligence they had witnessed in the frozen citadel.
Catastrophic miscalculation.
Her voice broke through in bursts of static.
Not what you think. 5th piece is...
More static obscured her words before clarity returned momentarily.
Find me in the void pocket. Only the heart crystal.
The transmission dissolved into chaos, leaving behind a set of coordinates and mathematical formulae that Chen's team immediately began analyzing.
Is she alive?
Hastings asked, studying the frozen image of Voss's distorted face.
In a manner of speaking,
Chen replied cautiously.
these readings suggest she's in a state of dimensional flux, neither fully in our reality nor completely in another. The Void Walker didn't kill her. It pushed her into a space between dimensions.
General Richards had joined them, his weathered face grave as he absorbed the implications.
Can we reach her?
Chen hesitated.
Theoretically, the coordinates indicate a pocket dimension adjacent to the Merak's realm, but stabilizing a portal to such a place would require
A specific frequency modulator.
Hastings finished, the pieces clicking into place.
Something like the bioluminescent crystals the Merak possess.
precisely,
Chen confirmed.
and not just any crystal. Based on these formulae, we would need one with very specific properties, what Voss referred to as a heart crystal.
Richards studied the data with narrowed eyes.
The question remains, do we trust her? Voss is from an alternate timeline with its own agenda. She sacrificed herself and her team to help us secure the fourth artifact.
Hastings pointed out.
And if she survived the Voidwalker encounter, she may have critical information about what we're really facing.
The general didn't look convinced.
Or this could be a trap. The Voidwalkers using her image, her memories, to lure us somewhere vulnerable.
Hastings thought of his daughter's words in the dream. Find the woman in between. She knows the truth. Coincidence? Or something more significant?
Either way,
He said aloud.
we need that crystal, and there's only one place to get it.
Richards nodded reluctantly.
Prepare your team. But Colonel,
He added as Hastings turned to leave.
be on guard. If there's even a hint that this is usurper manipulation, I'll initiate emergency recall.
Hastings assured him.
But, sir, what if we've been wrong about what we're doing? About what these artifacts actually do when united?
The question hung in the air between them, giving voice to doubts that had been growing since the Antarctic mission. Richards had no answer beyond a troubled frown that deepened the lines on his face. The portal transition was smoother this time, the team's familiarity with the process evident in their coordinated movements. They emerged into the underwater Shakri'aya facility, where they had first encountered the Merak, but the scene that greeted them was dramatically different from their previous visit. The central chamber, once teeming with Merak life, stood largely abandoned. Dwellings appeared hastily evacuated, personal belongings scattered as if left during a rapid exodus. More concerning were the scorch marks on walls and floors, evidence of energy weapons or something similarly destructive,
Looks like they left in a hurry.
Ortiz observed, sweeping his sensors across the chamber.
Recent, too. Within the last few days.
Patel moved to examine markings freshly carved into a central column.
This is a warning.
She translated, fingers tracing the hybrid script that blended Shakri'aya symbols with Merak adaptations.
It speaks of shadow walkers that came after we departed, entities that could wear the faces of friends.
Void walkers.
Ramirez said grimly, his hand unconsciously moving to the space where he had carried the Merak crystal, now burned out after its interaction with the Antarctic artifact. Hastings surveyed the abandoned settlement with growing concern.
Life signs?
Ortiz consulted his equipment.
Faint readings approximately 2 levels down. A lot of them, clustered in what appears to be a fortified section.
They've retreated to a defensive position.
Hastings concluded.
Let's move, but approach with caution. They may not welcome our return if they associate it with these attacks.
The team navigated through partially flooded corridors, their path illuminated by emergency lighting that cast eerie blue shadows across the ancient architecture. Evidence of conflict became more prominent as they descended, ruptured panels, disabled security systems, and in one corridor, a disturbing dark residue that none of the team could identify. Patel collected samples for later analysis, her scientific curiosity momentarily overriding her apprehension.
This substance has properties similar to what we observed in the Voidwalker entity, but with cellular components that suggest it once was organic.
Let's keep moving.
Hastings urged, not wanting to contemplate the implications. They reached a massive bulkhead door that had been sealed and reinforced with improvised barricades. Merak's script glowed around its circumference, warnings and warding symbols that Patel hastily translated.
It says this is the Chamber of Ancestral Light, a sacred place. They've retreated to their most holy site.
Before they could determine how to announce their presence, a hidden panel slid open at eye level. A Merak face appeared, skin pulsing with cautious patterns of light. Recognition flashed across its features, followed by what appeared to be conflicted deliberation. After a tense moment, the observer retreated. Mechanical sounds indicated the disengagement of multiple locking mechanisms before the massive door began to swing open with ponderous grace. Beyond the threshold lay a vast, domed chamber, unlike anything they had seen in the facility thus far. The architecture here was older, predating even the Shakri'aya modifications, suggesting this space had been sacred to the Merak before their contact with the ancient civilization. Hundreds of Merak had gathered here, families clustered together, the elderly and young positioned at the chamber's center, while those of fighting age formed a protective perimeter. Their skin pulsed with patterns of alarm and curiosity as the human team entered. From among them, a familiar figure emerged, Nataris, the leader they had encountered during their previous visit. The Merak's form seemed diminished somehow, its once vibrant bioluminescence now subdued with exhaustion and strain. Beside Nataris walked another Merak, younger, but bearing ceremonial markings that indicated significant status. It took Hastings a moment to recognize the young warrior who had assisted Ramirez during the evacuation, now adorned with symbols of rank and decorated with intricate patterns etched into specialized scales along its shoulders and crest. Ramirez straightened almost imperceptibly, a gesture of respect that didn't go unnoticed by the young warrior, whose skin flashed briefly in what might have been acknowledgement. Nataris approached, studying them with eyes that held equal measures of relief and suspicion. Its skin pulsed with a complex greeting that Patel did her best to interpret.
Nataris welcomes the return of the dimensional walkers, but questions our timing.
She translated.
They ask if we have brought more shadows with us.
Hastings stepped forward, keeping his movements slow and deliberate.
We come seeking help,
he said, allowing Patel to translate his words into approximations of Merak light patterns.
We believe forces from the void are growing stronger, breaking through in many places. We need a special crystal, what our information calls a heart crystal, to rescue someone who may have important knowledge about stopping these incursions.
As Patel translated, ripples of communication flashed through the assembled Merak. Nataris conferred briefly with what appeared to be a council of elders before responding.
The Heartlight is our most sacred relic,
Patel translated carefully.
It has been in the safekeeping of the Guardian caste for uncounted generations. It is not merely a tool or a weapon, it is the living memory of our people, a fragment of the great light that the Shapers—
She paused, clarifying.
I believe they mean the Shakri'aya, left to guide us.
Nataris gestured to the young warrior beside him.
This is Thalassar, now Void Bane and second Guardian after the recent attacks. The crystal you seek is under his protection.
Ramirez inclined his head toward Thalassar, a gesture of professional respect between warriors that transcended species barriers.
We remember your courage.
He said simply.
You helped save your people. We seek to do the same for us, for all peoples threatened by the void.
Thalassar's skin pulsed with patterns too complex for Patel to fully translate, but the intent seemed positive. He stepped forward, addressing Ramirez directly in a series of light pulses that somehow conveyed meaning beyond Patel's translations.
He says you proved yourself a warrior of honor.
She interpreted, watching the exchange with fascination.
But the heart light cannot be given. It must be earned through the trial of illumination, a test of worthiness that no outsider has ever undertaken.
Hastings exchanged glances with his team. Time was critical. Voss's fragmented transmission suggested urgency, but alienating the Merak by demanding their most sacred relic would only end in failure,
We accept the trial.
he decided.
What must we do?
The trial of illumination proved to be not one challenge, but four, each tailored to test different aspects of worthiness as defined by Merak tradition. The team was separated, each member escorted to a different section of the ancient facility by Merak guardians. Patel found herself in a chamber whose walls were covered in the oldest form of Merak script, predating even their contact with the Shakri'aya. An elderly Merak scholar named Luminar explained through complex light patterns that she must translate a creation myth that contained hidden truths about the Merak's connection to the artifacts.
This is our story of becoming.
Luminar's patterns conveyed.
Before the words were given physical form, they existed only as light patterns passed from generation to generation. Your task is not merely to translate, but to understand.
The script described how the Merak were once surface dwellers, with limited bioluminescence, used primarily for mating displays. The arrival of the Lightbringers, clearly the Shakri'aya, changed everything. They brought gifts of the inner light and reshaped the children of the sea to better serve as guardians of the sleeping keys. As Patel worked through the ancient text, a pattern emerged that confirmed their theories. The Shakri'aya had genetically modified the Merak, enhancing their natural bioluminescence to interact with Shakri'aya technology. This wasn't mere colonization or religious conversion, it was biological engineering for a specific purpose.
The final passage speaks of a test.
She told Luminar after hours of painstaking translation.
When the shadows reach from beyond, the guardians must determine whether to use the heartlight to seal them away forever or to open a path to those taken before.
Luminar's skin pulsed with approval.
You understand more than just our words. You grasp our purpose.
The elderly Merak produced a small crystal shard glowing with internal light.
This is part of your team's key. Earn the others, and the heartlight may be temporarily entrusted to you.
Ortiz's challenge took place in the facility's ancient power core, a massive chamber where Shakri'aya technology interfaced with geothermal vents in the ocean floor. The system had been severely damaged during what the Merak called the shadow incursion following the team's previous departure. His guide, a Merak engineer named Voltaris, explained through interpreted light patterns that the power core's failure had left important defensive systems offline, systems that might have prevented further Voidwalker attacks.
If you truly wish to help, restore what was broken,
Voltaris challenged. Ortiz surveyed the damaged components with a practiced eye. The technology was beyond advanced. Shakri'aya designs that merged organic and mechanical elements in ways human science was only beginning to theorize about. But certain principles remained universal, and the damage, while extensive, followed patterns he could analyze.
The main conduit arrays are fried,
He muttered, pulling tools from his pack.
and whatever hit the oscillation modulators wasn't just trying to disable them. It was systematic sabotage.
Working methodically, he began to repurpose components from his own equipment to bridge damaged sections of the alien technology. The Merak engineers watched with evident fascination as he improvised solutions using a combination of human ingenuity and understanding of Shakri'aya principles gleaned from previous missions.
The attack wasn't random.
He realized aloud as patterns in the damage became clear.
The Voidwalkers specifically targeted systems that regulated dimensional stability. They were trying to weaken the barriers further, create a permanent breach point.
Hours later, sweat-soaked and exhausted, Ortiz made the final connection. The power core hummed back to life, its energy signatures stabilizing as defensive systems came online throughout the facility. Lights that had been dark for days illuminated, and a subtle vibration indicated the reactivation of protective fields. Voltaris approached, skin pulsing with what Ortiz had come to recognize as approval. The Merak engineer presented a crystal component similar to the one Patel had received.
You restore more than power.
Voltaris conveyed.
You return hope to a darkened place.
Ramirez's trial took place in the outer regions of the facility, where the structured environment gave way to natural caverns that opened to the ocean beyond. Thalassar himself served as his guide and challenger, leading him to a vast underwater grotto, where light filtered down from the surface in ghostly, shifting patterns. Through a combination of light signals and gestures that had begun to form their own means of communication between them, Thalassar explained that Void Walkers had established a presence in the outer territories. Several Merak patrols had gone missing, and a vital outpost had fallen silent 3 cycles earlier. The challenge was clear. Together, they must investigate the outpost and, if necessary, eliminate any Voidwalker presence they discovered. They swam through dark waters, Ramirez relying on his breathing apparatus while Thalassar moved with natural grace. The Merak warrior carried a weapon of unusual design, a trident that pulsed with the same energy as their bioluminescent communication but focused into potentially lethal intensity. The outpost came into view, a small Shakri'aya structure integrated into a natural rock formation. Its entrance stood open, emergency lighting casting faint blue illumination that did little to dispel the ominous atmosphere. Inside, they found evidence of struggle, equipment destroyed, personal belongings scattered. More disturbing were the dark residues similar to what the team had observed earlier. Organic matter somehow corrupted by void energy. Thalassar's skin dimmed to near darkness, a tactical choice that Ramirez understood immediately. He activated his night vision equipment, scanning the shadows for movement. In the deepest chamber of the outpost, they found their answer, and it was worse than expected. A Merak lay suspended in some kind of cocoon-like structure composed of the same dark residue. Its form was partially visible through the semi-transparent material, its body undergoing a horrific transformation. Where once was Merak flesh, darkness had taken root, reshaping muscle and bone into something that was neither Merak nor Voidwalker, but a grotesque hybrid of both. Thalassar's skin flashed with patterns of shock and grief that needed no translation. The cocoon's occupant had been someone known to him, perhaps a friend or comrade. Before they could retreat and report their findings, the transformed Merak's eyes snapped open, not the eyes of the being it had once been, but voids of swirling darkness. The cocoon shuddered and began to split open. What emerged moved with unnatural fluidity. Its form still Merak in basic shape, but corrupted beyond recognition. Its skin no longer pulsed with bioluminescence, but instead emitted patterns of darkness that seemed to absorb light from their surroundings.
We adapt.
Its voice resonated directly in their minds.
We learn. We become ...
Ramirez and Thalassar fell into combat stances without need for communication, their movements synchronized by shared training and purpose. When the corrupted Merak lunged, they were ready. The battle was brief, but brutal. The void-corrupted creature possessed strength and speed beyond its original capabilities, but lacked the tactical awareness and coordination that made Ramirez and Thalassar effective as a team. They maneuvered it into a crossfire, Ramirez's energy weapon and Thalassar's trident striking simultaneously from different angles. The creature convulsed as opposing energies tore through its corrupted form. As it collapsed, its body began to dissolve into the same dark residue from which its cocoon had been formed. But before it fully dissipated, it spoke one final time.
The fifth key opens both ways. The shepherds lie about what lies beyond.
When it was over, Thalassar approached the remains with solemn purpose. He extracted a small device from his equipment, a containment unit that enclosed the residue for later study. Then, with movements that suggested ritual significance, he produced a crystal similar to those given to Patel and Ortiz. No words or light patterns were exchanged. None were needed. The shared battle had forged a bond of trust that transcended linguistic barriers. Ramirez accepted the crystal with a nod of acknowledgement, understanding its significance not just to their mission, but to the warrior who bestowed it. Colonel Hastings faced perhaps the most unusual trial of all. Nataris personally led him to a chamber deep within the ancient heart of the facility, a place that predated both the Merak settlement and the Shakri'aya modifications. The walls here were natural stone, worn smooth by countless millennia of water flow, but embedded within the rock were crystalline formations unlike anything Hastings had seen before.
The Chamber of Memory,
Nataris explained through a translator device Patel had configured.
Here, the barriers between mind and reality grow thin. Here, you will face what haunts you.
Hastings understood immediately.
The dreams? The voices from the void.
Nataris nodded solemnly.
To wield the heart light is to stand at the boundary between dimensions. If your mind cannot withstand the pressures there, the crystal will shatter, along with any hope of using it to reach your lost ally.
The test was deceptively simple in concept. Hastings would remain in the chamber alone for one full cycle, approximately 6 hours by human reckoning. During this time, the crystalline formations would amplify any psychic influences targeting him, whether from the usurpers or other sources. He must maintain his mental integrity without the aid of the mind shield, which Nataris gently but firmly removed from his wrist.
If you still know yourself, when I return,
the Merak leader explained,
the final component will be yours.
The first hour passed in tense but uneventful silence. Hastings settled into a meditative state, drawing on military discipline to maintain focus. The second hour brought whispers, familiar voices from the void, testing the boundaries of his consciousness. By the third hour, the voices had gained clarity. The usurpers spoke not with alien cadences, but with the voices of people he had known and lost. Colleagues who had died under his command, friends lost to war and time. Most painfully, they spoke with his wife's voice, alternating between accusations and pleas.
You're not real,
Hastings stated firmly, his voice echoing in the empty chamber.
You're using memories, nothing more.
Are we?
The collective voices shifted, becoming something both more and less than human.
Or have we simply shown you the truth you refuse to see? Your family was not lost in an accident, Colonel. They were taken by the same forces you now serve so blindly.
Images flashed through his mind, the car accident that had claimed his wife and daughter, but from new angles that revealed anomalies he had never noticed in the official reports. Strange energy patterns visible just before impact, a brief distortion in space-time that no investigation had identified.
Lies,
he insisted, but doubt had taken root. The timing had always been suspicious, his family's death occurring just weeks before he was recruited for the artifact recovery program. A coincidence he had never fully questioned until now.
The Shakri'aya are not saviors,
the voices continued.
They are shepherds who farm realities for their own purposes. The artifacts do not seal us away. They harvest what we protect.
The chamber seemed to shift around him, the crystalline formations pulsing with increasing intensity. In their reflective surfaces, Hastings saw not his own face, but Emma's, his daughter, exactly as she had appeared in his recent dreams.
Daddy,
she said, her voice clear and distinct from the usurper's whispers.
Remember what I told you. Find the woman in between. Not everything is as it seems.
The conflicting messages, usurper manipulation versus what felt genuinely like his daughter's presence, threatened to overwhelm him. Hastings closed his eyes, focusing on his breathing, seeking the eye of calm within the psychic storm. A realization formed. Both sides wanted something from him. Both the Shakri'aya legacy and the usurpers in the void were manipulating him toward their own ends. The truth might lie somewhere between or beyond both.
I don't serve either of you,
he declared to the empty chamber.
I protect my world, my people. Whatever game you're playing, I won't be a pawn in it.
The voices receded, though whether in defeat or strategic withdrawal, he couldn't tell. When Nataris returned hours later, Hastings was sitting calmly in the center of the chamber, his mind battered but unbroken. The Merak leader studied him with what might have been approval before presenting the final crystal component.
You faced the voices, but remained yourself.
Nataris observed.
Few have achieved this, even among our own kind.
Hastings accepted the crystal, noting how it pulsed in synchronization with the formations embedded in the chamber walls.
The usurpers spoke of the Shakri'aya as shepherds, not saviors,
he said.
Your own histories describe them as shapers who modified your species. Have you considered that neither side in this ancient conflict may have our best interests at heart?
Nataris's skin pulsed with patterns too complex for the translation device to fully interpret, but the response carried clear notes of philosophical depth.
The currents that shape the ocean care nothing for the fish that swim within them. Yet the wise fish studies those currents, nonetheless.
The team reunited in the Chamber of Ancestral Light, each carrying their hard-won crystal components. At the chamber's center stood an elaborate pedestal, where, according to Merak tradition, the four components would combine to activate the heart light itself, a larger crystal of extraordinary power kept in a secure reliquary above the pedestal. Thalassar, as second guardian, performed the ritual that brought the components together. As they touched, each crystal illuminated with increasing brilliance, their energies synchronizing into patterns that mimicked the mathematical formulas from Voss's fragmented transmission. The heart light responded, descending from its reliquary on a beam of pure energy. It was larger than they had anticipated, roughly the size of a human heart, pulsing with bioluminescence that shifted through patterns of extraordinary complexity.
By ancient covenant, the heart light may leave our protection when great need arises,
Nataris explained.
But it must be returned when its purpose is fulfilled.
You have my word,
Hastings promised, accepting the crystal with reverent care. Its surface was warm to the touch, vibrating subtly with what felt almost like a heartbeat. As preparations for departure began, Thalassar approached Ramirez. Through their improvised communication of gestures and light patterns, the Merak warrior conveyed a decision of significant personal importance. He would accompany them on their mission to rescue Voss.
His expertise with the Heartlight could prove invaluable,
Patel translated when Ramirez brought the request to Hastings.
and he feels responsible somehow. The Voidwalker incursions began after our visit. He sees a connection.
Hastings considered the implications. Having a Merak ally could indeed prove advantageous, particularly one who understood the crystal's operations. But it would also mean bringing a non-human entity back to their base, something General Richards might not approve.
Tell him we welcome his assistance,
Hastings decided.
but he should understand the risks. Where we're going, the barriers between dimensions are dangerously thin.
Thalassar's response, conveyed through a simple pattern of light, needed no translation.
Where shadows threaten, light must follow.
The journey back to base was completed without incident, though General Richards's expression upon seeing Thalassar spoke volumes about his reservations. After a tense briefing in which the general reluctantly acknowledged the potential value of the Merak's assistance, preparations for the rescue operation began in earnest. Dr. Chen and his team worked alongside Thalassar to integrate the Heartlight into their portal technology. The crystal's energy signature proved compatible with their systems, but required careful calibration to avoid dimensional instability.
The pocket dimension where Voss is trapped exists in a state of constant flux,
Chen explained, studying readings from preliminary scans.
It's like a bubble of reality caught between universes, neither fully here nor there. The Heartlight will stabilize a corridor long enough for extraction, but will have minutes at most before the connection fails.
Who goes?
Richards asked, looking to Hastings for a recommendation.
Myself, Ramirez, and Thalassar.
Hastings decided after consideration.
Patel and Ortiz will monitor from this side and manage the portal stability.
The general didn't look pleased with the inclusion of the Merak, but nodded his acceptance.
This Dr. Voss, whatever version of her we find, may not be the ally we hope for. Be prepared for deception.
As the team made final preparations, Hastings found himself alone with Thalassar in the equipment room. The Merak warrior was examining human weapons with evident curiosity, his skin pulsing with patterns that suggested both appreciation for their design and awareness of their limitations. Through the translation device, Hastings asked a question that had been troubling him.
Your people have guarded the Heartlight for generations. Why risk it now for people you barely know?
Thalassar's response came after thoughtful consideration, his bioluminescence forming patterns of unusual clarity for the translator.
The void grows stronger. The shadows reach further. This battle spans many worlds. We cannot fight separately if we hope to survive.
He paused, then added,
But there is more. When the Void Walker spoke through our corrupted brother, it said, "The fifth key opens both ways." This matches our oldest prophecies about the Heart Light's purpose. It was never meant only to seal away darkness.
What else was it meant to do?
Hastings pressed.
To open a path to those taken before.
Thalassar answered.
To reunite the scattered children of light.
The words echoed Emma's message from Hastings's dreams with unsettling precision. Before he could pursue this further, the facility's alert system signaled readiness for the operation. The portal chamber had been reconfigured for the unusual parameters of their mission. The Heartlight now occupied a central position in the portal framework, supported by a network of energy conduits that connected it to the 4 artifact pieces. Together, they generated a dimensional frequency unlike anything their instruments had previously recorded.
The pocket dimension is stabilizing,
Ortiz reported, monitoring the fluctuating readings.
We're establishing a fixed reference point within the flux, but
He frowned, adjusting controls.
there's something strange about the energy signature. It's almost as if something on the other side is reaching for us.
Patel's expression was troubled as she studied her own readings.
The dimensional boundaries are thinner than we anticipated. Be careful, there may be bleed-through from adjacent realities.
Hastings, Ramirez, and Thalassar took position before the forming portal. Each was equipped with specialized gear designed for the uncertain environment they would encounter, including modified mind shields synchronized to the Heartlight's frequency.
Portal stabilization at 70%.
Chen announced.
Establishing connection. Now.
The familiar swirling energy of the portal took on new characteristics. Instead of the blue-white vortex they had come to expect, this manifestation pulsed with prismatic light that shifted through patterns reminiscent of Merak bioluminescence. At its center, rather than a clear view of the destination, they glimpsed only swirling gray mist.
That doesn't look promising,
Ramirez muttered, checking his weapon one final time.
The pocket dimension isn't fully aligned with conventional space-time,
Chen explained.
Visual confirmation won't be possible until you're inside.
60 seconds until optimal stability.
Ortiz called out.
After that, you'll have approximately 8 minutes before the connection becomes unsustainable.
Hastings exchanged nods with his companions.
Standard extraction protocol. We locate Voss, secure her, and return immediately. No detours, no exploration.
As the portal reached maximum stability, the team stepped through in practice sequence. Ramirez first, then Thalassar, with Hastings following. The transition was unlike any they had experienced before. Rather than the momentary disorientation of conventional dimensional travel, this passage felt extended, as if they were moving through layers of reality that parted reluctantly before them. When they emerged, the environment defied simple description. They stood on what appeared to be solid ground, but the surface rippled occasionally like water disturbed by unseen currents. The sky, if it could be called that, was a shifting canvas of gray, occasionally splitting to reveal glimpses of other realities, an ocean of liquid metal, a landscape of crystalline formations, a vast cityscape of impossible architecture.
Dimensional bleed-through,
Hastings observed, recognizing the phenomenon from Shakri'aya records.
This pocket is intersecting with multiple realities simultaneously.
Thalasar's skin pulsed with patterns that the translation device interpreted as both wonder and alarm. The Merak warrior adjusted something on his equipment, a device of his people's design that responded to the Heartlight's energy signature.
Life presence,
he indicated, pointing toward a structure that seemed to shift between different architectural styles as reality fluctuated around it.
but fragmented, dispersed.
They approached cautiously, weapons ready. The structure stabilized as they drew near, settling into a form reminiscent of Shakri'aya design, geometric precision merged with organic flowing elements. An entrance materialized, responding to their presence. Inside, the dimensional fluctuations were less pronounced, suggesting some kind of stabilization field was in operation. They moved through corridors that occasionally rearranged themselves, following Thalasar's readings toward the life signature. They found Dr. Eliza Voss, or what remained of her, in a central chamber filled with Shakri'aya technology. Her physical form had undergone a transformation similar to, but distinct from, the corrupted Merak they had encountered. Her body seemed partially translucent, with currents of energy flowing through it, in patterns that mirrored the dimensional fluctuations outside. When she spoke, her voice resonated with harmonics that suggested she existed simultaneously across multiple planes of reality.
Colonel Hastings,
Voss said, her form shimmering with dimensional energy.
you found me? The Heartlight guided you here, just as I hoped it would.
Dr. Voss,
Hastings stepped forward cautiously.
we received your fragmented transmission. You mentioned a catastrophic miscalculation.
Voss's form stabilized momentarily, her expression urgent.
The fifth artifact piece. It's not where you think. The usurpers have been manipulating your dreams, trying to lead you astray.
She gestured to the Shakri'aya technology surrounding them.
From this pocket dimension, I've been able to see truths hidden from both sides of the conflict.
What truths?
Ramirez asked, weapon still ready.
The 5 artifact pieces aren't just weapons.
Voss explained.
When united, they form a seal, a dimensional barrier that will permanently contain the usurpers within the void. But the Shakri'aya designed them with a secondary purpose, known only to their highest echelon.
Thalasar's skin flashed with patterns of recognition that translated as ancient Merak legends about the great doorway between stars.
Yes,
Voss nodded to the Merak warrior.
your ancestors knew parts of the truth. The complete artifact reveals a hidden mechanism within the portal technology, a receptacle for a crystal that reconfigures the entire network.
Another tremor shook the structure. Ortiz's voice crackled through their comms.
Colonel, portal stability at 40% and dropping fast. You have less than 3 minutes.
The fifth piece.
Hastings pressed.
Where is it?
Not in a collapsed dimension as you've been led to believe.
Voss replied, moving to a console where complex holographic displays showed a familiar location.
It's on Earth, hidden in plain sight, where the Shakri'aya believed it would be protected by human ignorance of its significance. Beneath the Antarctic Research Station, where you recovered the 4th piece.
A decoy.
Hastings realized.
The artifact we found was meant to distract us from what was actually there.
Exactly.
Voss confirmed.
The usurpers have been trying to prevent you from finding it because once the seal is complete, they will be permanently contained.
She turned to Thalasar.
The Heartlight is crucial. It will verify the authentic 5th piece. Many decoys were created to confuse those who sought to complete the seal.
The structure around them shuddered violently as dimensional energies became increasingly unstable.
1 minute to portal collapse.
Ortiz warned through bursts of static.
Take this.
Voss pressed a small device into Hastings' hand, a data crystal of Shakri'aya design.
Coordinates to the 5th piece's exact location and information about what comes after. The seal is just the beginning.
You need to come with us.
Hastings insisted, but Voss shook her head.
My physical form is now bound to this pocket dimension,
She explained, her body becoming increasingly transparent.
but I can do one last thing to help.
She placed her hands on either side of Hastings's head. Images flooded his mind. The true location of the fifth artifact piece, the full assembled artifact revealing a previously invisible receptacle. The heart light's crystal essence transferring to this receptacle. A portal shifting from blue-white to emerald green, and glimpses of distant star systems connected by a network of portals that had remained dormant for millennia.
Complete the seal.
Voss urged, as the structure began to collapse around them.
Then look for what it reveals. The Shakri'aya built more than just a barrier. They created a pathway to something greater.
Thalasar pulled Hastings back as sections of the floor dissolved into swirling energy. The Merrick warrior's skin pulsed with urgent patterns.
Now, the way closes.
They ran for the portal, reality fracturing around them. As they reached the threshold, Hastings looked back to see Voss's form dissolving into pure energy that spread throughout the collapsing pocket dimension.
We'll find it,
He promised as they leapt through. The return transition was violent. Reality itself seemed to resist their passage. They emerged into the portal chamber amid alarms and flashing emergency lights. The portal collapsing behind them with a thunderous implosion that overloaded systems throughout the facility.
Cutting it rather close,
General Richards observed as technicians rushed to stabilize the damaged equipment.
Dr. Voss? Couldn't be extracted.
Hastings replied, his mind still processing the information transfer.
But she gave us what we needed.
He held up the Shakri'aya data crystal.
The location of the fifth artifact piece. And it's not where we thought.
As Dr. Chen's team analyzed the crystal's contents, Hastings briefed Richards on Voss's revelations, carefully omitting the glimpses of what lay beyond the seal. Some discoveries needed to be verified before being shared, even with command.
Antarctica again.
Richards mused when Hastings explained the true location.
Hiding in plain sight. Clever. The usurpers have been trying to mislead us.
Hastings explained.
The dreams, the false coordinates, all designed to prevent us from completing the seal that would permanently contain them.
Thalasar, who had been conferring with Patel about the Heartlight's readings, approached with purposeful strides. The Merrick warrior activated his translation device.
The heart light confirms this truth. It senses the fifth piece's resonance precisely where the woman between dimensions indicated.
Richard studied the alien with a mixture of suspicion and grudging respect.
How quickly can we mount another expedition to the Antarctic station? 24 hours,
Hastings replied.
but we'll need specialized equipment. According to Voss's data, the fifth piece is beneath the station, encased in a material designed to mask its energy signature.
Dr. Chen joined them, excitement evident in his features.
Colonel, the data crystal contains much more than just coordinates. There's information about the complete artifact's functionality that goes well beyond what we theorized.
One step at a time, Doctor.
Richards cautioned. First, we secure the final piece and
Complete the seal.
against these usurpers. The rest can wait. Hastings exchanged a knowing glance with Thalasar. The Merak's skin pulsed briefly with patterns, suggesting mutual understanding. Some secrets were best kept until the right moment. 48 hours later, Hastings stood in the excavation beneath the Antarctic Research Station, staring at the exposed fifth artifact piece. Unlike the others, this one pulsed with energy that shifted between patterns, sometimes geometric like Shakri'aya design, sometimes organic like Merak bioluminescence.
It's responding to the heart light,
Patel observed, monitoring readings from her equipment.
almost like it's awakening.
Thalasar held the heart light closer to the artifact piece, his skin pulsing in synchronization with both crystalline structures. Through the translation device, he explained,
It verifies authenticity. This is the true fifth piece, the keystone of the seal.
With careful precision, they extracted the artifact from its housing. The moment it was freed, its energy signature intensified, pulsing in patterns that matched the four pieces secured back at their facility.
They're calling to each other.
Ortiz noted, checking his instruments.
Across thousands of miles, they're resonating in perfect harmony.
Let's get it back to base.
Hastings ordered.
The sooner we complete the seal, the sooner we end this threat.
As they prepared for extraction, Hastings felt a familiar pressure building in his mind. The usurpers, making one final attempt to dissuade him.
You don't understand what you're doing.
The voices whispered.
The seal traps us, yes, but it also blinds you to greater dangers. The Shakri'aya are not what they seem.
Hastings strengthened his mental shields, dismissing the intrusion. After encountering so many deceptions, he had learned to distrust these whispers from the void. The assembly chamber had been prepared for the final unification of the artifact pieces. All 5 components now rested in specialized containment units arranged in a pentagonal formation that mirrored designs found in Shakri'aya records.
Energy levels are stable,
Chen reported, monitoring the complex array of instruments surrounding the formation.
All pieces are resonating at the predicted frequency.
General Richards observed from behind protective barriers, his expression revealing both anticipation and caution.
Proceed with the unification sequence.
Hastings nodded to Thalassar, who stepped forward with the heart light. The Merak warrior's skin pulsed with ceremonial patterns that Patel recognized from their studies of ancient Merak rituals, patterns that signified momentous transitions.
The heart light will verify and guide the unification.
Thalassar explained through the translation device.
It ensures the seal forms correctly.
With methodical precision, the team moved each artifact piece from its containment unit to the central platform where they would be joined. As each piece came into proximity with the others, their energy signatures intensified, geometric patterns on their surfaces illuminating with increasing brilliance. When the 5th and final piece was positioned, Thalassar raised the heart light above the formation. The crystal's bioluminescence surged, bathing the artifacts in patterns that seemed to unlock something within their structure. The unification began, not with the violent energy surge they had anticipated, but with a harmonic resonance that grew in complexity as the 5 pieces merged. Their separate forms dissolved, flowing together like liquid metal to create a single object of breathtaking intricacy, a geometric sphere whose surface featured interconnected patterns that shifted and realigned in endless variations.
The seal is forming,
Chen announced, watching his instruments with fascination.
Dimensional energy readings indicate a cascading effect across all known breach points. The barriers are strengthening.
Throughout the facility, monitoring systems confirmed this analysis, reports flowing in from field teams worldwide indicating that dimensional anomalies were closing, stability returning to regions that had experienced continuous disturbances for months. In Hastings' mind, the voices of the usurpers faded, not silenced entirely, but diminished to barely perceptible whispers as their connection to this reality weakened.
It's working,
Richards observed with evident relief.
The seal is containing them.
As the unified artifact completed its transformation, a new feature became visible, something none of their analysis had predicted. At the sphere's equator, a narrow seam appeared, pulsing with energy that resonated specifically with the heart light. Thalassar's skin flashed with patterns of recognition.
The pathway reveals itself,
he translated.
Just as the woman between dimensions foretold.
What pathway?
Richards demanded, stepping closer despite safety protocols.
This wasn't in any of our projections.
Hastings exchanged glances with Thalassar before responding.
Dr. Voss
indicated there might be more to the artifact than just the seal. The Shakri'aya designed it with dual purpose. Before Richards could question this further, the seam on the artifact widened, revealing an interior space precisely shaped to accommodate a crystal, one exactly matching the dimensions of the Heartlight's core.
It's a receptacle,
Chen realized, scanning the newly revealed feature.
But for what purpose?
Thalassar stepped forward, the heart light pulsing in his grasp.
To open the way beyond,
he said simply, his bioluminescence forming patterns that resonated with both the artifact and the crystal he carried.
Beyond what?
Richards demanded, but Hastings could see the general already understood the implications.
Beyond our known network,
Hastings explained.
The Shakri'aya built their portal system with deliberate limitations, connections only to worlds and dimensions they had prepared for contact. But this,
he gestured to the artifact and its revealed receptacle.
This suggests there's an entire secondary network we haven't accessed.
Thalassar approached the unified artifact, the heart light responding to the receptacle's pull.
My ancestors spoke of stars beyond stars,
he conveyed through the translation device.
Worlds the Shapers visited, but kept separate from their primary network. The heart light was always meant to be the key.
Hold on,
Richards interrupted, authority filling his voice.
We don't know what activating this secondary function might do. The seal is working. The usurpers are contained. Why risk destabilizing that?
A valid concern, Hastings acknowledged. Yet the images Voss had shared remained vivid in his mind. The portal's energy shifting from blue-white to emerald-green, opening pathways to systems they had never imagined.
We should study this further before attempting activation,
Chen suggested diplomatically.
Run simulations. Analyze the artifact's new configuration thoroughly.
Agreed,
Richards nodded.
No unauthorized experimentation. The seal is our priority. Everything else is secondary.
As the team secured the unified artifact for transport to a specialized containment vault, Hastings found himself standing beside Thalassar at the observation window. The Murak's skin pulsed with patterns too subtle for the translation device to capture. A private communication intended only for those who understood the ancient language of light.
You saw it too,
Hastings said quietly.
What lies beyond the known network?
Thalassar's response came not through technology, but through a carefully modulated pattern that Hastings had begun to understand during their time together.
The heart. Light shows the true path. When the time comes, it will guide us to the 4 crystals that awaken the greater network.
Hastings nodded, his gaze fixed on the unified artifact as it was sealed in its vault. The usurpers were contained. That battle was won. But Voss's final gift had revealed something far greater. Not an ending, but a beginning. Beyond the void lay unexplored reaches of space connected by dormant portals, worlds the Shakri'aya had visited, but kept isolated from their primary network. And somewhere among those distant stars, 4 crystals waited, keys to unlock a mystery greater than anything they had yet encountered. The Shakri'aya Chronicles would continue. The seal was complete, but their journey had only just begun. Don't miss the next installment. The Shakri'aya Chronicles, Quest for the Crystals. Thank you for joining us. See you soon, and please subscribe.
Oh, Shakri'aya, take me far away through the void where endless wonders sway. Every question births a deeper spark in your glow.